We encourage your questions and comments. Now, without further ado, here's your host, L.Nathan Hare.
Here we go, living now, living right now. This is L.Nathan Hare, your host here for this next hour at WFO Power 96 FM on your radio dial. Our principal sponsor, of course, the Community Action Organization of Western New York, still fighting the war on poverty, now in our 53rd year. I want to welcome all of you again to this hour of insight, introspection, and interpretation of facts, events, and trends affecting you right here and right now in Buffalo and Western New York, and in fact, connecting to communities all across the country. Each week, we focus on things we think will be of interest to you, which will serve to motivate you and serve to connect you to the broader issues that affect our communities here in Western New York. Now, today's program is live, so you can call and you can join our discussion. Hope that you will. Our number here again is 837-1112. That's 837-1112. I'm joined here with Emmanuel Radford, who does the live streaming of our program. If you have your computer handy or you've got your tablet or other handheld device and you type in Facebook and then type in Living Now, you'll actually be able to see the program live. And you can type in your questions or observations or your concerns, and we'll respond to as many of them as we can on the air during the course of the program. I have to talk again on this issue of violence in our communities. Now, I don't want to call this juvenile violence because, although young people are often the victims as well as the perpetrators of violence, the vast majority of the shootings and violence that we see occurring in our communities actually doesn't take place with those 10 to 17-year-old people in our communities. It takes place more with those that are in that 18 to 30, 31 age range. And so I don't think it's responsible to keep referring to it as juvenile violence. I think that's a way of us sort of divorcing ourselves, shifting the onus away from us as adults and shifting it, to a visible, a population that we call youth. But in the past 3 weeks, I was just talking with Emmanuel before we started the program, I think we've had 6 people killed over the course of that time period. Lord knows how many people have been shot, and injured over the course of that time period. And I was reacting because in Chicago, I couldn't even keep up with the reports. Some of the reports indicated that there were 37 people shot over the weekend and 2 people killed, but the same report that said that internally in the report said 3 people had been killed. And then I heard on the radio that there were actually 76 shootings in Chicago and that there were 11 people killed over the course of that one weekend. Now, every single one, I don't like to make this a race-based, kind of or an African-American-based, kind of a program. I need for you to know, though, that for the people that were killed in Chicago and shot in Chicago, the people that were killed in Buffalo, that were shot in Buffalo, every single one of them was an African-American. And I need for you to understand why I have this visceral response or reaction to it. It is like we have taken freedom and the ability to act without having massa sitting on top of everything that we do, controlling every second of our day. We've taken that freedom and turned that into rampage, where we are actually becoming the source of danger, mayhem, and destruction of ourselves. I mean, at some point, when does when does sanity, get to us? If I am robbing your house, taking your money every day when you're trying to go to school, I'm raping your kids and your sisters and your mothers and whatnot, and then suddenly you gain power and you can stop that from occurring, would you then turn around and you start being the one raping your mothers and your sisters? Would you become the one, that's robbing people and taking their lunch money? I mean, if you were the victims and somehow you were able to get out of being the victims, why would you victimize other victims? If you mad at somebody, why wouldn't you be mad at the people who victimize you? Why is all of the mayhem, all of the murder, all of the rampage, all of the destruction, all of the depravity that is coming out of this generation, why is that being people who were the victimized people victimizing other victimized people? I mean, I'm not trying to recruit you to go and attack the people that victimized us. I'm not asking you to do that. Okay, that's not the way out of the wilderness either. But I just can't comprehend, why are you mad at us? We didn't do this to you. Why are you shooting at us? I mean, if you're going to shoot somebody, why don't you shoot the people that are shooting you? Why are you shooting me? Right? I mean, that's the part that I just can't understand. Every time we have these conversations, every place in our communities, and Emmanuel, you young enough, you can speak to this. Every single one of these meetings, the rallies, the community meetings, the analyses, the theorists, all say the same thing. It's jobs. They just don't have enough jobs in the community. That's why people are behaving like this. I challenge that issue. I challenge that assertion. I do not believe that makes an ounce of sense. Now, Emmanuel, work with me. Help me understand, okay? This is the way I reason. And I realize that, I'm, probably borderline, crazy. Maybe I'm, I'm off the cliff a little bit. But in my, limited way of thinking, my thought process is the solution to not having a job is to get a job. Am I missing something here? That's that straight line, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. You're, excuse me, you're over here. The job is over there. So you go over there and get the job, period. Now, there may be some things that you got to do to get the job that you may find difficult or undesirable, right? So you may have to take 3 buses to get from where you are to where the job is. But your choice is take the 3 buses, get the job, make the money, come home on 3 buses. Maybe you have to go to sleep a little bit earlier so you can get up a little bit earlier in the course of the day. But you make $400, $500 a week. You pay your note, your rent note, you pay your cable bill, et cetera, right? And you make body and soul stand up. Now you're telling me that what I just described is less desirable than you tattooing yourself up, putting your clothes on backwards, standing on the corner or in a parking lot someplace, muscling up, with other people to get crumbs from other people's so-called street enterprise. That makes more sense to you, putting yourself in a position where you got to be joined with people that are shooting and killing, other people. You got to be out here trying to rape and intimidate other people. That makes more sense to you than taking 3 buses to get to work. That's what you're telling me? That's not a job problem. I'm not saying there isn't a job problem in our community, but that's not the reason why you are behaving the way that you are behaving. Something else is the reason. Depravity is not the logical outcome of poverty. I just need for us to stop saying this. I grew up poor. I grew up in the Perry Projects. We were 4 people in our household. We made $42 a month. Wrap your mind around that. We made $10.50 a month each. Okay? We made $2.62 a week. That was what we lived on. 1955, 1960, until I got to the point where I could start working myself, right? 1959, I started working myself. So now we had 2 incomes in the household. And over time, my older sister started working and my younger sister started working. Things got a little better. Not because we were making that much money per hour. We just had a lot of people working in the household. So our household income got better. We were able to buy a house, and be able to get our life going a different way. My point is that being poor did not turn us into depraved people. We didn't lose our minds because we were poor. We didn't walk around robbing people because we were poor. We didn't walk around shooting people because we were poor. We didn't walk around raping people because we were poor. We didn't stop taking care of our kids and marrying our kids' mothers or our kids' fathers. When we had those kids, we didn't stop doing that because we were poor. This idea that because we live in these traumatized circumstances, that somehow justifies depravity, we have to stop allowing ourselves to think like that. That's somebody who's giving us an excuse, a get out of responsibility card. You know how to get the little card, to get out of jail card, in a Monopoly and whatnot? Well, this is a get out of responsibility card. It's no different. I mean, not to belittle the what goes on in our public school system, but notice what gets said in our public school system. We have all of these kids that are doing so poorly in school, and the reasoning that we're always given is, well, their fathers don't live with them. Their fathers are in jail. They live in tough communities. They're on drugs. There's a lot of poverty, in the community. Nobody in the household ever went to college before. Well, nobody in my household ever went to college before either. What did it have to do with me being able to go to school and study? My father didn't study for me. I studied for me, okay? He just celebrated the fact that I was getting it done, right? But he couldn't help me, right? He didn't have any of those kind of skills. My mother died when I was 9, so that wasn't no help for me at that juncture in my life either. So instead of looking for reasons to justify why we have the things going on in our communities that are going on, why not go the other way? Why not say we have to figure out how to stop these consequences from happening in our community? How can we stop these things from occurring? We've got to change what we allow to go on amongst us. Now, again, I realize I'm an older person, so maybe I see the world in a different way than these digital people see the world, today, what they call millenniums, whatever that's supposed to mean. I accept that, right? I accept that things change, over the course of time. But when I was young, if I was out here, shooting, craps or, hustling cards or whatever it was that I was doing in the street, and I brought some of my friends home with me to my father's table or to my grandmother's kitchen table, I couldn't bring their game with me. If they were engaged in misconduct, they had to keep that away from the conversation that went on inside the house. They could not let that conversation be heard, by my grandmother. They couldn't let that conversation be heard by my father, because then I would have had, holy heck rain down on me, because of that. We didn't enable, that kind of behavior. We checked it. But that doesn't seem to be the case now. It seems that we sort of accept it. We got yes, go ahead.
The question is, what have we built in our communities? You are discussing family values. Bad behavior is never an excuse, but it is a challenge that requires thoughtfulness and resources.
There's absolutely that. And what we have to do is start. We can't take the position that because we haven't built something that covers everybody, then it justifies not building anything for anybody. So you got to start, right? So we have beauty salons, like Marlene has a beauty supply or a beauty salon on North Fillmore, across the street diagonally from Ansar Communications and so on. We have Alex Wright, who has the African Heritage Food Co-op, right? So what we have to do is take these small things, get behind them, build them into larger enterprises, get people to start believing in our ability to produce goods and services for ourselves, to provide them to ourselves, to hire ourselves to be the retailers of those goods and services, and begin to grow ourselves that way. We also have to take conscious responsibility for our own community, meaning that if you know that you can keep kids out of trouble if you keep them with you after school, when they get done with school, they go home and they go immediately to an after-school activity at their church, at their school, at the community center, If you keep that structure, you enforce that structure for all of your kids will grow up thinking that living a structured life is normal. I mean, you got 1.5 billion people that live in China. They don't have the kind of issues going on amongst, because they have order, they have structure, they accept, they govern themselves by the structure that has been created for them in their society. As a consequence, they can have 1.5 billion people walking around their country, and they have very few murders, they go on. They have very few, incidences of gun violence and so on. Listen, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to get back into our subject. If you all stick with us, we will see you on the side of the break here at Living Now. Living right now.
Do you want to increase your home's value? Do you want to lower your energy bills? Are you in need of affordable financing for your next home improvement project? The CAO Home Improvement Resource Program can help. Just come to their monthly HIRP orientation session every second Wednesday of the month at 564 Dodge Street, Building 400. HIRP staff will help identify the resources you need to get financed, and they'll even help you with completing your application. You won't know what you qualify for until you call them today at 881-6543. That's 881-6543. Learn about all the home improvement programs you may be eligible for and ask about the affordable financing program that can help turn your house into your dream home. Call 881-6543 for more info. It's the Home Improvement Resource Program, restoring value to neighborhoods across Erie County, one house at a time. Brought to you by the Community Action Organization of Erie County.
All right. Welcome back to Living Now here at WFO Power 96.5 FM on your dial. I'm here with Emmanuel Radford, who's doing the live streaming of the program. And again, if you want to participate in the program, you can dial in Facebook, type in Facebook in your internet search engine on your handheld device or your computer, and then type in Living Now. The program will come up, and you can type in your observations, your questions, your concerns. We'll respond to them on the air. One of our listeners also was building on the idea of the need for role models. And I understand the concern that we have that in many, many, many circumstances, we don't have role models in the households these kids are living in, because the people who would be the role models, they're the 35 and 45-year-old versions of the 10, 7, 17, 18-year-old kids that we have out here right now. Because this is not a new problem. This has been going on for a very long period of time. But my position is that if we're going to organize as a community, we can't organize around whining. Whining just doesn't cut it. What we've got to do is we've got to say, what can we do to help those households, whether there's a role model in the household or not? So if we can sort of organize ourselves so that we make after-school opportunities available, at least for the adolescent school-age children aged 10 to 17, if we organize ourselves around making spaces available for them, so there's an after-school program that every child can go to every day after school, whether it's in the school building, whether it's in the community center, whether it's in a community room at a church. If we organize ourselves so that 85, 95% of our kids are in those kinds of structures, and the ones who aren't, they're playing organized varsity sports or intramural sports or junior varsity sports, or they're in the Western New York Dance Academy, or whatever, African American Culture Center, they're doing that sort of stuff. If we can do that, then you're going to have almost all of the children around caring adults, and those caring adults are going to be the role models of what responsible, moral, goal-oriented behavior is. We've got to fight the battle that way. We can't just do nothing. That's just my thought process. I hear people, talking about, this job issue. Here's what I'm asking people. Regardless of how poorly educated or skilled a person might be, you can certainly work a job as a stock boy, right? You could work a job as a store clerk. You could work a job as a maintenance helper. You could work a yardman job. You could be a laundry worker. You could be an orderly. You could be a lot boy. You could be a general laborer. You could be a sweeper, a butler, a produce picker, a produce planner, a delivery man, a delivery helper. there's lots of jobs that you can get even if you don't have a clue. You can't add 1 and 1 and get 2, 3 times out of 4. Even if that's your case, there are still jobs that you can do. You have to make a decision that working responsibly, taking care of yourself as opposed to living as a criminal is a better thing for you to do. And you, as the people around those folks that are working in those criminal lives, you got to be the ones to start making demands on those people when they're around you. We have a caller. Hang on. Let me grab that call real quick. Hi, caller. Are you there?
Yes. Good morning,
Hi.
Mr. Hare.
Hi, Mother Dora. How you doing?
Oh, can you hear me? Because I can't hear you.
Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you on the line.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Now I can hear you.
All right, good.
Yeah, I just wanted to just comment on your chat because this violence is really something. A 12-year-old boy was shot this morning at 3 o'clock this morning, and he is in stable condition at Children's Hospital. I think the thing that really concerns me is some of our children getting shot. The 7-year-old girl the other night, and then what concerns me is the fact that we have several children now whose mother has been killed.
Yep.
Because we had a 26-year-old young lady who was shot Saturday night at a party. There
Yep.
were 2 women shot.
Yep.
One survived. The 26-year-old, she died. Her father was talking on the news last night. And I went to the prayer vigil on Butler. People were just extremely upset.
Devastated.
There
right.
were about 50 members of MVP. They were there. The mayor was there. The mayor was going door to door. I really have to give him credit. He's really showing a lot of concern about this. The police were there. Stop the Violence people were there. I think this would be even worse if we didn't have the Stop the Violence people and we didn't have the MVP group led by Mr. Neil Dobbins. It would be much worse.
Right.
And then the lady who was shot on Butler and killed, she left behind 5 children.
Yep.
So I'm just really, because here at just a school be opening soon, and you've got these children who don't have a mother to help and guide them. And it's very traumatic, very, very traumatic. That's one of the biggest things that really kind of disturbs me about this whole thing. And then attacking women and mothers. So I don't know what the answer is, Mr. Hare. I really don't. One thing I really wish that the community would do is participating and raising the reward money, because I think the reward money now is at $4,000. I'd like to see it at $25,000 to $50,000.
Yep.
That might help loosen somebody's recollection of what happened. But I just think there's a number of things that need to happen. I don't know what the answer is, but I'm just real concerned about these children who are going to school, who've been traumatized. And so I don't know. I don't know how you feel about that. It's really sad. But let me just give you some good news, and then I'll hang up and listen to your response.
Okay.
I want to congratulate my son, Jesse. He just sent me an email. He's been recognized by the company that he works for, and there were several of them recognized because they put all their pictures on the company's website for giving good customer service. And this is the 3rd time he's been recognized for that. So we also have to remember that while we have all this confusion and chaos going on, we still have young black men who are doing a good job,
right,
who are holding down a job. So we want to recognize. I want to recognize the young man that's there with your show, Mr. Raffer's son. What's his first name again?
Emmanuel. Yeah.
Emmanuel. I mean, we have to uphold Emmanuel, my son, all the young African-American males who are doing a good job. I don't think we do that enough. I know we do some, but I think we should do more. And the last thing, my next Ion History Award will be presented this coming Saturday at 3 o'clock at the Meriwether Library to Marcus Brown, president of the Juneteenth Festival.
Yep.
So, and, he's been working hard, too, so he's going to be recognized. I hope people will come out. The program is free, open to the public. My goal in doing this is to recognize people who are doing great things in our community. But I'll hang up and listen to your thoughts on the children who've been traumatized and going back to school.
Yep.
Thank you for your program, Mr. Hare.
Thank you, Mother Dora. Appreciate all the work that you are doing to help us in our community. And of course, Mother Doyle is right on the money that we have two things. One, we've got to celebrate those young people that are doing the very things that we're saying that we want to see young people do, not only in terms of them doing well in school, but when they get out of school, doing well in their young adult lives. We have to celebrate that every single opportunity that we have. Simultaneously, we have to figure out ways to change the patterns of thought that exist among young people today. You know, this social media stuff, I mean, I'm not a social media person, so, you know, I have to be told about this stuff, right? But I actually got on Facebook and started following people that are actually dissing each other on social media. You know what I mean? They call each other names, they tell stories about each other, they insult each other's heritage and, you know, lives and that sort of stuff. And because it becomes a printed record, because now it's digital, it's physically there. And even if you're good at deleting stuff, it's still out there. Once it's out there and somebody else downloaded it, it's out there forever. And what happens is the people who feel that they have been dissed or victimized by whatever somebody had to say, now they want to get back. And of course, getting back is not good enough for them to get on their Facebook and type in whatever craziness they want to type in, and then have, like, you know, typing wars, you know, I type this, then you type that, you know, and so on. No, they can't, that's not good enough. Now they feel like they've been embarrassed, you know, in some digital world community. So now they have to go and shoot somebody so that they can prove to the other people in the digital world community that, you know, they're a strong, you know, masculine, whatever, you know, kind of person, and that you can't mess with me. This is just nuts. It's just nuts. I mean, let me put this in context for you. Many of us, especially in the African community who I speak to most frequently, when they talk about these kids that kill themselves because somebody was dissing them, you know, on Facebook or whatever, Twitter, whatever these things are, somebody was dissing them. And I presume dissing them was somebody talked about the fact that you had braces, somebody talked about the fact that your clothes didn't look correct or whatever, and so you get dissed by somebody. Then you get mad at that. You say something back to them, and then they start talking about, well, yeah, well, I know your mother, and your mother, blah blah blah, you know, and they start doing, you know, playing the dozens with you on the digital network and so on. And people get so upset about that, and they feel that they're being surrounded by all of the people in their world who are looking at this digital nonsense, and that they now are saying to themselves, oh, Sally, did you know Sally was this horrible person? Did you know Sally's mama was blah, blah, blah? Did you know Sally was sleeping with so and so? And they feel so chagrined by that. They feel so tortured by the fact that people are thinking that about them, that they end up shooting themselves. Now, people like me who don't pay any attention to social media at all, you say whatever you want to say, and people have, from what I understand, you know, said ugly things about me, but it's meaningless because I never look at it, right? And if I looked at it and saw that people were saying stuff like that about me, I would never look at it again. That would be my solution. Oh, that's what y'all doing? You're talking about me on that medium? Well, I know how to do that. I'll go to a different medium. Right? I just won't be bothered with that, right? So here we have people who are engaging in digital disrespecting of each other, and then making physical assaults on each other based on somebody digitally disrespecting you. Now, maybe it's just me, but doesn't that sound like insanely stupid and childish and witless, that you would be reacting to what somebody said on some digital platform someplace? You would react to that by going to hurt that person? That's your reaction? You wouldn't just turn that channel off? I mean, once you turn the channel off, it loses its power, right? Go, right? You know, go read Vox magazine, or go read Politico, go read something else. You don't have to read this this social media nonsense and whatnot. We have to start becoming more mature as a community of people. We can't. My position is depravity is a condition that exists when people get to a place where they think that what their needs are supersedes everybody else's needs. That whatever I want has to supersede everybody else's wants. Because if I want to have a relationship with you, I'm not going to be dissing you, right? I mean, I don't walk up to you when you're walking down the street and say, "Yo, Emmanuel, this." I would never do that. We'd have a fist fight, right? You wouldn't do that. So why would you do that on a social media platform, right? But the issue, why is it that you can't control yourself, that you just don't do that? You don't engage in that, and you don't react to that. I wanted to take a quick analysis on this issue of people that say that they have to have a living wage job in order to work. You know, they're not getting $35, $40 an hour. The job isn't worth it for them. Let me just help you with something. If you are an unskilled person and you can only get a job that pays $10.40 an hour, in a 40-hour week, that's $416 a week. I just want you to know now, my first job, 25 cents an hour, 40 hours a week, $10 for the week. You're getting $416 minimum in a week right now. I'm not feeling your pain, okay? If you're living alone and you're paying $700 a month for rent, you're paying $200 a month for utilities, you're paying $125 a month for a car note. You know, either get a used car or get one of those new cars that only cost you like $8,000 to be brand new. Get one of those cars. You know, it's not going to make you, you know, like the heavy player in your community, but you'll be able to get back and forth to work without taking the bus, right? Get one of those kind of cars. Paying $120 a month for your car insurance, $200 for food, $100 for cable TV and internet service. That would cost you about $1,445 a month. Put another $100 a month on that for gas. That'd be $1,545 a month. That job that pays you $416 a week at $10.40 an hour, that would pay you $1,664 a month. You can make a complete life stand on $10.40 an hour. Now, if you really can't make that work because you messed around and had 2 kids out of wedlock and you got to pay child support, you know, those kinds of issues. I'm just saying, you know, maybe you want to go into business, maybe you want to save some money. Well, you can get together with somebody else, like maybe your parents or your brother or your sister or your cousin, who you can live with and share expenses. If you do that, you can cut those expenses down by $400 or $500 a month that I just described. And therefore, that's money that you can save every month, and you can use that money to either go to school, you can use that money for you to go into business, to buy a rental property. I mean, you know what I'm saying? You can make a stand, even if you're only making minimum wage. You can still make a stand. It has to be a better deal for you to be able to go to work every day, make a stand, pay for all of the terms of your life, a normal life with a car insurance, paying for food, paying for your utilities, paying for your rent and so on. It has to be a better life structure for you to do that working than for you to have to stand on a corner with a bunch of other people that are engaging in constant criminal activity, that are tearing down the community, shooting people, stabbing people, raping people, engaging in every form of depraved, misconduct. I mean, how is this even a choice? How can you not even, how is it possible that you can't see that being able to make a stand legitimately is always superior to making a stand out of a life of crime, okay? It just has to be something that we have to be the ones who are saying this to people. We have to stop allowing people to justify their behavior by claiming that they were poor, claiming that their parent was in jail, claiming that, their mama didn't go to college, claiming that, whatever these excuses are, that people keep making. We got to take ourselves out of these excuses and start taking responsibility for ourselves. There are jobs all over Buffalo. Everywhere I go, I find jobs at stores, at U.S. Foods, at Wegmans. I mean, there are jobs all over the place. Now, they're not great jobs. But the first job I worked was pulling onions out of the ground with a machete. That wasn't a great job, trust me. I had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I had to go on the green bus. I stayed out there all day, came back. It'd be 7 o'clock by the time I got home. But I'd have $2 or $3 that I made for that. Now, of course, in 1959, 1960, $3 went a much longer way than $3 goes, right now. But my point is, that's what I did in addition to going to school. In addition to going to school, I did that kind of work. You can make a lifestyle. Well, people say, well, how can you do that? Because my leisure time is useless to me if I can't afford to pay for my leisure time. So if I had to work in order to have enough money to even have any leisure time, then I just worked. If that meant that my leisure time was cut from 20 hours a week to 5 hours a week, well, it was just cut to 5 hours a week, because I'd rather have 5 hours a week of leisure time and pay for my entire life than to end up in jail or end up having to be responsible for having killed somebody because they looked at my girlfriend the wrong way. I mean, these people are dying over the most trivial of issues. Somebody looked at me wrong. Somebody bumped it, on me. Somebody tried to hit on a girl it wasn't even my girlfriend. I was just interested in her. And you're killing people over stuff. This is just insane. It is so depraved and so insane that we have to understand that this cannot be the result of lack of jobs. There's more going on here than that. Now, I know we got to take our last break, so why don't we do that firstly, and then we'll get back into our subject. So if you all stick with us, we will sit aside at a break here at Living Right Now.
Do you want to increase your home's value? Do you want to lower your energy bills? Are you in need of affordable financing for your next home improvement project? The CAO Home Improvement Resource Program can help. Just come to their monthly HIRP orientation session every second Wednesday of the month at 564 Dodge Street, Building 400. HIRP staff will help identify the resources you need to get financed, and they'll even help you with completing your application. You won't know what you qualify for until you call them today at 881-6543. That's 881-6543. Learn about all the home improvement programs you may be eligible for and ask about the affordable financing program that can help turn your house into your dream home. Call 881-6543 for more info. It's the Home Improvement Resource Program, restoring value in neighborhoods across Erie County, one house at a time. Brought to you by the Community Action Organization of Erie County.
All right, welcome back to Living Now here at WFO Power 96.5 FM on your dial. This is L.Nathan Hare, your host, here with Emmanuel Radford, who's doing the live streaming of the program. We had a listener who talked a little bit about this issue of young people and the digital, world. Talk a little bit about what that listener said.
It's pretty long, so I'm gonna just cut to the meat of the comment. He's saying
You got to talk into the mic, yeah.
He's saying that we have to learn how to engage them in the spaces they are in. We can't call it digital nonsense or stupid, because to them it's real, it's part of their everyday lives. We can't call it stupid and expect them to listen to us, referring to the social media stuff we're talking about.
Right. So let's be clear, and I hear what the listener is saying. Let's be clear. We're not saying that the digital world is stupid. What we're saying is that allowing ourselves to be driven by something that somebody says to you on a computer, allowing that to drive your behavior, is insane. That just makes no sense. How can you kill yourself because you saw on a computer that somebody said something distasteful about you? That's something that we've just got to condition our young people to not allow themselves to think like that. That's just bizarre. Number one. Number two, we have to get responsible young people into relationship with each other and start driving positive messages on the internet and make the crazy messages become something that people don't want to listen to. Give you an example. In the time that I grew up, this was an apartheid kind of country. There was the water fountain for the white people. There was a water fountain for the black people. There was a bathroom for the white people, a bathroom for the black people, and so on. If somebody were to use their social media to push their racist apartheid ideology onto me, or if they did it with leaflets, or they did it in their newspapers, they did it on their radio programs, I would just not listen to them. That would be my solution, right? I wouldn't pay them any mind whatsoever because they don't have any power. You can't hit me, with your digital, you take a digital wand out someplace and smack me, you can't hit me. So I don't have to respond, to that. So I'm suggesting to us that we've got to start delegitimizing the craziness. I mean, I understand what people are saying, but I am never going to legitimize you taking your access to the digital media and make videotapes of beating somebody, almost to death or to death, and then putting that onto your digital medium, and then you running around the country watching it and all saying, "Ooh, wow, you see what he did? Ooh, wow." No. That you can't put that on, your lack of a job. You can't put that on, your lack of your parents not going to college. You can't put that on that. That is just depraved behavior. It's not the internet that's depraved. It's you that are manifesting your depravity using the internet or the digital world as a way to share with everybody how depraved you have allowed yourself to become. The idea, I got to tell you now, I'm not trying to lionize my time period. I'm just trying to give you a sense of context, right? In my time period, I'm out in front of Goodloe Brown's a barbershop. It doesn't exist anymore, but it was on Jefferson, a couple of doors away from Mike's Lounge. And, right? And so there was a cleaners over there, Vera Cleaners, and Goodloe Brown's barbershop was next door to that. And so I'm out there one day, I won't give any names, and one of my uncles, his closest friend, he comes up to me, sits next to me. I'm maybe 11 years old, 10 years old. He's kind of just dialoguing with me, doing what older guys do. He's sort of giving old guy conversation to a young guy. And I see a lady who was over near Fox's wig store. It used to be a couple doors, a door or two away from Utica and Jefferson. And she's coming from there. She's got a cart full of groceries. I guess she had been walking all the way down Jefferson Avenue from the A&P that used to be on Landon and Jefferson. She was walking from there with her groceries. She had somehow gotten to the other side of the street. Now she's trying to come back on the side of the street, where I am. And my uncle's best friend takes his stash, puts his stash in my hands and says, "Nate, watch this." And all of a sudden I became the custodian of his stash, right? And he went to get this older lady, and he walked her across the street because she was like in the middle of the block. He walked her across the street, and then he tells me, "I'll be back." And he walks her down to Glenwood Avenue, turns down Glenwood Avenue with her, apparently took her home, and then he came back to me, and I gave him back his stash, right? Now, I'm not saying all the stash stuff was legal, because I completely get what you all are going to say about that. My point is that his ideology was he sees an older woman, right? Now he's like in his mid-30s, right? This woman had to be in her 60s. He sees her struggling with her cart full of groceries, and he took responsibility to help her to get home with her groceries, even though he himself was a crook. And I, of course, was abetting a crook. Let's be honest about that too, right? But my point is that was the cultural context that I grew up in, that even the crooks would respect a pregnant woman. Even the crooks would respect an older adult woman. Even the crooks would accept instruction from an older woman or an older man, seeing you doing something that you shouldn't be doing, or needed to counsel you about something. They didn't have any problem with speaking to you directly about what you were up to and what they thought you should be doing, as opposed to what they saw you doing, and so on. That was the world that used to be. Somehow we've allowed ourselves to accept that because young people feel something, it's okay for them to express it any way that they want to express it. It's not okay. We got to stop saying that. Okay? It is true. You may feel whatever you feel. It may be true that people in my era didn't feel what you're feeling in your era. All of that may be true. But that doesn't justify you feeling like you have to go and muscle somebody because they say that, well, baby, you should pull your pants up. That just don't make any sense. I don't need to be seeing your underwear. Pull your pants up. Now, if somebody says that to you, you should take that as positive instruction because obviously they must care about you that they would bother to even tell you that. Pull your pants up. Okay? Just that simple, right? You driving down the street, you playing your car music so loud that the windows are starting to crack, in the cars and stores around you and whatnot. And somebody said, hey, baby, calm that down. Bring the volume down just a little bit so the rest of us can hear each other talking. Just bring the volume down. I mean, for you to have people respect you and invest their care in you, and all you have to do is show that little bit of sensitivity to other people's reality in order to get that respect, why wouldn't you do that? Does everybody else have to be, so focused on giving you all kind of regard and all kind of respect because you're a young person and we should all just do everything possible, for you, and you don't feel any responsibility, to have any care about what the rest of us feel about what you're doing. At the end of the day, you are only going to be a child for a short period of time. If you're lucky and don't get killed, you're going to be a child until you turn 21 years old. And once you turn 21 years old, you are going to be an adult. And you're going to be an adult for the rest of your life. This is not something that comes to an end. It is permanent. It's a permanent condition. Everybody who doesn't die gets cured of childhood. Everybody who gets cured of childhood becomes an adult. But everybody who becomes an adult, you never get cured of adulthood. Once you catch that, you got it forever. So instead of whining about the fact that you are an adult, you got to start figuring out, how do I make a permanent life stand as an adult? How do I make sure that I can take care of food, clothing, and shelter and all my responsibilities while I'm in the working stage of my life and produce enough surplus revenue, saved, accumulated revenue, that when I get to the stage where I can't work anymore because I'm too old to work, I can live off of my old money. That's what my responsibility is to do. And we have to make sure as adults that we are constantly teaching this reality to our young people. Excuse me. There is no retirement benefits you get from selling crack on the street. They don't take FICA, out of your crack sales and so on, right? So that you can go and get social supplemental security or social security or whatnot out of your contributions that you made to the social security system. It just doesn't work like that. You ever, go ahead.
Comment that says, our youth have gutter values that stem from gutter media and the lack of consistent presence of mature males that can interpret responsible living to them.
See, and what the listener is speaking to, I think, is what we have to start calling out loud. We have to say it out loud. That is that we have media owners who see that there's a lot of trafficking that you can create around unlicensed, unhinged, deranged, despicable communication. So when people are showing their rear ends, I actually 15 years ago came across an employee showing their rear end, okay, on a digital platform, right? And so what happens is they don't pay to do that, and nobody pays them to do that, but the platform that you're using, they get to sell advertising on that platform. So somebody knows they're going to see a big butt on that platform. All the people that are depraved enough to be going to the digital web to see big butts, they're going to come to that site, and then you sell advertising on that site. And so what's happening is predators, the same predators that we have always had to fear and respond to, those same predators are the ones that are tricking us right now. They are creating this environment where they seduce you into giving into your worst behaviors, your worst thoughts, your worst lack of inhibition and so on. They seduce you into doing that, making you feel like you're being, owning your right to free speech. It's making you some kind of a heroic person for you to put your depravity on display in the public. And then, people show girls fighting other girls to the death. And then they got all of this, traffic, 10 million people watch it. And then, of course, whoever sells advertising, your advertising price point is created by how many people are watching that medium. So if somebody's only got 500,000 people watching, that medium is only going to get like a dime. And somebody who's got 10 million people watching, that medium is going to get $10. That's the way that this process works. And so predators who own and control these digital websites, these platforms, they're the ones who are seducing you into engaging in this kind of behavior and making you think that you are somehow becoming millennial, or you're expressing your free speech rights. You're showing that you're challenging the powers of the people that are older than you, and all of that kind of nonsense and whatnot. And all you're doing is creating an environment of chaos and destruction and depravity that other children are being grown up into, and thinking that what you are doing is normal, thinking that it's okay. It's not normal. It's not okay. It just isn't. And so we have to be the ones that are going to be accountable for that. When I see 13 to 17-year-old people claiming that they're hustling in the streets because they can't find a job, I stress over that. That is just insane. If you're 13 to 17 years old, what should you be doing? Yes, you got the answer. You should be going to school, okay? You should be getting some grades. You should be getting yourself into a position that when you finish high school, you can qualify to get into a vocational certification program, or you can get into a degree conferring program that's going to give you credentials that will allow you to be able to work in a decent job for the rest of your life. That's what you got to do, because your childhood is your preparation for your adulthood. In this country, you can get your preparation for adulthood for free. They don't charge you to go to elementary school. They don't charge you to go to high school unless you just come from a family that can afford it and you just choose to go to a private school. But in this country, elementary and secondary education is paid for free. If you take advantage of this free education, when it's time for you to have to pay for your education and get into a vocational certification program or into a degree conferring program, you're going to be able to qualify to get in. Once you get in and you get those credentials, you've got a piece of paper that's, even if you can't do a good interview, maybe you're a stumble mouth person and you stutter and you can't do a good interview, but you show them a piece of paper that says that you have a bachelor's in social science, you've got a bachelor's in chemistry, you got a master's in education administration and whatever, you've got a certificate as a journeyman plumber, as a bricklayer, and so on. You know you're going to be able to work for the rest of your life. That's what you have to be putting yourself in a position for. It doesn't make any difference how poor you were from the time you were born until you got to be 22 or 23 years old and you finish getting your credentials to make your adult life stand. Once you got those credentials, you're not going to be poor then. You're going to be able to live well in a middle-class life for the rest of your life. That's what we've got to get into our kids' heads. Instead of giving ourselves justifications for why we are engaging in depraved behavior, let's start explaining to young people there is only one way out of the wilderness. You have to use your elementary and secondary education time period to put yourself in a position that you can get into finishing school, get the credentials that you need for you to be able to stand up as an adult by yourself, erect your own life, not have to beg anybody for anything. You'll be able to produce the terms of your life yourself. That's really what it's all about. We got to say that. So in order to empower that, we're going to have to organize. I know we got to come to a close, but empower that. we've got to build these after-school programs that help us to be able to sort of in a group way mentor just about everybody amongst our young people. So thank you all. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate the listeners and all of the input that you've given us. Look forward to talking to you all next week here at Living Now, Living Right Now.
Thank you for listening to